The Battle of Iwo Jima took place during World War II from February 19th to March 26, 1945, between the United States and Japan. It was a pivotal moment in the Pacific Theater. The battle was marked by intense fighting, as US Marines faced well-fortified Japanese defenses, including an elaborate network of underground tunnels. In this video, we will be discussing 5 little-known facts about the Battle of Iwo Jima. US forces outnumbered the Japanese by more than 3 to 1. The US forces enjoyed a significant numerical advantage over the Japanese during the battle. The American strategy was to use overwhelming force to ensure the capture of the island. The US Fifth Fleet, commanded by Admiral Raymond Spruance, supported the Marine Invasion Force, providing extensive naval and aerial firepower. The Marines who landed on Iwo Jima faced a determined Japanese defense. The Japanese forces, commanded by Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kurabachi, had constructed an intricate network of underground tunnels and fortified positions, making the island a formidable defensive stronghold. The US Marines faced a tough and protracted battle, as the Japanese defenders fought fiercely from well-prepared positions. In total, 70,000 US combatants fought against 18,000 Japanese defenders. The numerical superiority of the American forces, along with their air and naval support, ultimately played a crucial role in the success of the operation. The Japanese knew they were going to lose the battle. The Japanese commander on Iwo Jima, General Tadamichi Kurabashi, realized he would not be able to stop an American landing. Rather, he devised a lengthy and expensive defensive conflict to weaken America's determination to pursue the war and attack the Japanese mainland. The commander positioned weaponry to unleash lethal fire into the shores, but he focused his forces on the island's northern region, where they were positioned in underground bunkers and artillery positions connected by miles of tunnel. The terrible cost of this deadly isolationist web of defenses was incurred. Right from the beginning, the Japanese knew they were eventually going to lose. With no support from the Navy, the island was effectively cut off from any military aid. Subsequently, the battle turned into a last-ditch effort to inflict as much damage rather than actually hold the island. The last Japanese holdout on Iwo Jima surrendered in 1949. As US forces invaded the island of Iwo Jima, groups were often cut off and left without any communication from the outside world. Many Japanese soldiers found themselves occupying bunkers and tunnels, with little to no grasp on the fighting raging on above ground. Small groups of survivors formed and scavenged the island for food, water, supplies, and enemy soldiers to fight. At the time, the US had trouble clearing tunnels and underground dugouts, as they proved to be cramped, hard to navigate, and dangerous when factoring in the trained and motivated Japanese soldiers that inhabited it. As such, many tunnels were not fully cleared out, and when the fighting ended on the 26th of March 1945, there were still Japanese soldiers living on the island. These groups were completely unaware when the Japanese surrendered on the 2nd of September 1945, which posed a threat to US forces that now occupied the island. As a part of the occupation of Japan, US forces were stationed on the island. During this period, Japanese soldiers would sneak out during the night, stealing rations and equipment for their respective groups. Starving and isolated Japanese soldiers would often kill each other over resources and power between the groups. Japanese soldiers often would resist surrender, as they thought it would bring dishonor upon themselves, their family, and their nation. This often resulted in US forces resorting to using explosives and flamethrowers. For years after the war ended, both sides encountered casualties which easily could have been avoided. Finally, on the 6th of January 1949, Yamake Kafuku and Masuda Linsoki surrendered, almost 3.5 years after the war ended. The US thought the battle would only last a week. The expectation that the Battle of Iwo Jima would last only a week was based on several factors that influenced the initial assessment by the United States. Iwo Jima is a relatively small island, and the initial belief was that it could be quickly captured due to its compact size. The thought was that US forces could swiftly overwhelm the Japanese defenders. Iwo Jima was considered strategically vital for the United States as a potential airbase for fighter escorts and emergency landings for B-29 bombers during the intense air campaign against the Japanese. The urgency of securing this key location may have contributed to an optimistic timeline. The US intelligence underestimated the strength and determination of the Japanese defenders. The intricate network of underground tunnels, bunkers, and fortified positions surprised American soldiers, leading to a more prolonged and challenging battle than initially anticipated. The US had experienced success in island hopping campaigns in the Pacific, such as the capture of Guam and Saipan. These relatively swift victories may have influenced the expectation that Iwo Jima would follow a similar pattern. The United States enjoyed overwhelming air and naval superiority in the Pacific, which may have contributed to the belief that they could quickly neutralize Japanese defenders and support the marine invasion. Despite initial expectations, the Battle of Iwo Jima turned out to be one of the bloodiest and most challenging engagements for US forces in the Pacific theater during World War II. Navajo code talkers played a key role. The United States Marine Corps recruited Navajo speakers to develop an unbreakable code based on their native language. The Navajo code talkers developed a complex code that substituted Navajo words for military terms, creating a code that was extremely secure and virtually impossible for the Japanese to decipher. Navajo code talkers were responsible for transmitting and receiving coded messages during the battle. The use of Navajo language confounded the Japanese codebreakers, who were unable to understand or decipher the messages, providing a secure and effective means of communication for US forces. The ability of code talkers to communicate in real time on the battlefield was a game changer. While other codes could take precious time to encode and decode, the Navajo code was quick and efficient, allowing for swift and secure communication between units. The Japanese, who were skilled codebreakers, were unable to break the code. The complexity of the language and the unique nature of the code made it a formidable challenge for the enemy, ensuring that critical information remained protected. The Battle of Iwo Jima was particularly intense, with harsh terrain and determined Japanese resistance. The secure communication provided by the code talkers was vital for coordinating attacks, calling out artillery and airstrikes, and overall tactical planning. In total, Navajo code talkers sent in more than 800 messages without error. The role of code talkers was kept highly classified after the war, and their contributions were not widely known until many years later. In 2001, the US government officially recognized the achievements of Navajo code talkers with a Congressional Gold Medal, honoring their unique and invaluable service. Navajo code talkers played a key role in not only the Battle of Iwo Jima, but throughout the Pacific theater, contributing significantly to the success of US military operations by ensuring secure and effective communication.